been enjoying watching this latest season of The Real Housewives of Atlanta so much, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Cynthia Bailey may be the best friend of the show we've ever seen on the series. Let's talk about why it works. So the first reason I think it works really well is because, one, Cynthia is a friend of the show and not a friend of a particular castmate like we've seen traditionally with housewives, where they come in and they're like kind of cling to the person that brings them into the group. Also, Cynthia is a veteran, so there's no need, like the audience doesn't have to wait and see how they feel about her. There's no need for buy-in. Everybody knows Cynthia already, and her being a vet and OG for the show, doing 10 seasons prior to coming back for this one in the last season. And then the last thing I think that makes her unique is that it's kind of the same thing about her not coming as a friend of a castmate, but also in the way we've always seen Cynthia, she's kind of been wedded to a castmate like Shamia has with Portia. Cynthia was wedded to either Nene or Kenya, and I think she just really has blossomed in this role as a friend of the show because it allows her to kind of be this like fairy godmother to all the women on the show, even though she has, she leans more towards the other OGs, other vets are full-time housewives like Portia and Phaedra, but she also doesn't really have a problem with anybody else on the show. I think Bravo may be onto something with bringing on veterans as friends of the show. Veterans understand the way the housewives really work in a way that they don't have to explain like production and or how to get them to do certain things and how to get the group to move forward or how to get the group to kind of like be in the shared space in a way that a new housewife really doesn't get. I think having two new housewives on this season, Pinky and K. Michelle, while also having a housewife in her sophomore season, three housewives in her sophomore season rather, Angela, Shamia, and what's the short chick's name? Kelly in their sophomore seasons. I think it's important to have somebody to guide the ship. You need Portia and Phaedra not to really be like, they can't be the overarching like directors of the way the season is going because they're engaged in the mess. Not so much Phaedra, more so Portia, but Portia's the frick to Phaedra's frack, or however they say that shit. Whichever one's which, right? And so you can't have one of them be the person that's kind of guiding the ship. So you need someone else. And I think Cynthia, as a vet of the show, does a really good job with that. Because a lot of times we see vets come in, they kind of just fall back into their old friendship patterns and circles, which I think happened last season with Cynthia. I haven't watched a full season of Atlanta though, disclaimer, since Cynthia and Nene left. So my last full season was probably season 12 or 13. I watched the first 5 episodes of last season, but after that I got bored, so I stopped. But I think last season, Cynthia's role as a friend of the show didn't really work because Kenya was still there for the first 5 episodes, and Kenya expected Cynthia's loyalty, even though they basically had a whole new cast of housewives. I think they had an entirely new cast besides Kenya and maybe Drew, but so you had this entirely new set of housewives come in, and then you have Cynthia, and she's kind of like expected to be wedded to Kenya. I think with season 17, it's a bit different because we really see Cynthia by herself. And as a veteran of the show who's done 10 seasons, who has had a lot of ups and downs and experience like life on the show, the friend role gives her the chance to kind of coach the new housewives into how to be housewives, which is what we see her do this season when she sits down Angela and Pinky, or thus far this season rather, sits down Angela and Pinky and tell them like, I want y'all to fix the group. And even when I think the other housewives had problems with Cynthia at the trip in Dallas, it was nothing that was like, yeah, I felt like as a viewer should have went past the trip, and I think that Cynthia probably felt the same way. I think I've seen Shamia say something about it in like on a press run recently about Cynthia, but I don't think there's anything like that's not a real reason for them to fall out about you having a room that got cleaned the next day on the trip. It really was nothing to bring up past the first day and it getting addressed and clean. But nevertheless, I think that it works well. I think that there's probably just like a lot of fracture in the group within itself, but Cynthia's not so enmeshed in the mess that she can't be around any of the other housewives, or that they don't feel like they can talk to her about whatever issues they have or whatever it is they're going through. But yeah, I also think it's really interesting to see Cynthia in this solo role and to kind of see like her as a friend, like in the way that I don't think we've ever really seen her. I think it presents her in a new light. And whereas like we've trusted Cynthia, we know that Cynthia, we know what we're gonna get from her, a couple of hey childs or some hot cheekbones. But I also think that her being in this role by herself really does kind of shed a new light on her, and it allows us to see her. To me, it feels most comparable to like the role that Nene would have taken on the show. Like in the friend position, she kind of seems like the most important housewife, which is a really strange thing, but it works. And I was also thinking like the idea of veterans being friends of, it's not new because we have seen veterans come back as friends on several franchises in Bravo. I only watched the Black Housewives in Salt Lake City. I guess 2 white ones now because I also watched Rhode Island. But in Married to Medicine, I've seen Lisa Nicole come back. We've also seen Deshaun and Lisa come back and make like cameo appearances on The Real Housewives of Atlanta, but they never have made like a strong enough impression to where they feel like a full-time housewife in the series. They're not doing as many confessionals. Like it's never as enmeshed as the other housewives are. When Nene came back that one season, I think it was like season 9, maybe she came back in the middle of the season, or season 10 she came back. Whatever season she came back in the middle of the season, and she was like a friend of the show. That was another time where it felt like they got the veteran role, the veteran friend of role right. And I think that if Nene was ever come back to Atlanta, I think it would be in the role of a friend, because it also, like the women on the cast, I think everyone else is significantly younger than Cynthia. So Cynthia's going to be like 60. All the other women are in their mid 40s and maybe early 50s. So I think Cynthia and Phaedra are probably closest in age, but everybody else is significantly younger than them. And it's interesting that Cynthia has this like OG vet presence. I also think it's because of her association with Nene, because Cynthia and Phaedra started Real Housewives at the same time, but also Phaedra was gone for 8 seasons, whereas Cynthia has been there, a staple housewife from 3 to 13. So I think she took 1 season off in between those seasons. So I think the legacy and the role that she has played in the show has been shaped by the women that she's been in proximity to. Like Phaedra was closest to Candy for her first 9 seasons. Now she's linked to Portia. Or maybe her first 8 seasons she was close to Candy, and that last season she was kind of linked to Portia and Nene. But Cynthia has historically been linked to Nene even when they were on bad terms. And then when she was best friends with Kenya on screen, they were linked together. I didn't watch Ultimate Girls Trip, which I hear people say that's why Kenya and Cynthia fell out. But I didn't see that. But nevertheless, I do feel like the people that Cynthia has been wedded to have created like a stronger perception of why like she's able to elicit that response and get that sort of respect from the show, right? I think people are big fans of Nene and or big fans of Kenya. If you like one of those people, you also probably like Cynthia. And so I think as a result of her having like that proximity to those wives, it makes it easier for folks to love her too. Which is why this season works really well, because like the audience, like I said, already has that buy-in for her, and she doesn't have to introduce herself to America like the other new housewives do. And people aren't still filling them out like they're still filling out the sophomore season wives like Shamia and Kelly and Angela, and people have strong opinions about those housewives already. Whereas with Cynthia, it's like you know what you're going to get, and you also have kind of like bought into it. But this is like it's new in ways too. So I don't know. I think that Cynthia is saving the season, and she's doing like the season's been good. I shouldn't say saving the season. I think that Cynthia is like a driving force of why the season has been so good, though. And I'm excited for Bravo, I think, to bring in more veterans to be friends of shows and not to like recast shows around the veteran, but to allow the veteran to kind of swoop in and make sure the show is doing well and like protecting the storyline for the central like arc of the show, and not necessarily trying to be married to or so enmeshed in the mess that they feel like they're a part of the full ensemble of housewives, like the real true cast. But anyways, if you enjoy this type of content, be sure to like and subscribe and share. Follow me on all platforms. I make content here on YouTube. I read for pleasure and for fun, which is primarily what I talk about, books. I'm making a little bit more lifestyle content, a little bit more culture stuff lately, talking a lot about the housewives and other TV shows that I watch. So if you enjoy those types of things, follow me here. Follow me on TikTok. I'm also on Instagram. I'm Majoring Low, and I'll see y'all next time. Love and light. Peace.